What happens when your whole business relies on planes landing and taking off, and suddenly that traffic turns to a trickle? International traveller numbers have plunged for Auckland Airport, and on top of that, it's made the tough decision today to send the Blue Coat volunteers home. Fresh numbers show a 44% drop in international travellers on the same time last year, and flight schedules continue to change by the hour. The government's now advising all New Zealanders overseas to consider returning home while commercial options are still available. Auckland Airport's cancelled its interim dividend and its directors are taking a 20% pay cut, as is CEO Adrian Littlewood. He says the airport's having to look critically at its future development plans.
There's probably around 800 businesses and 20,000 people who come to work in this area every day. And in some ways, their activities are all connected. So at times like this, there's no question that the impact of those travel restrictions ripples right throughout this part of the city and also throughout the country.
So how badly? I mean, what does it look like out there at the moment?
Well, it's pretty dramatic, I think, in terms of the changes that we're seeing, and you can see that through the announcements the airlines are making at the moment. So obviously New Zealand announcing it's pulling back its international service by about 85%, as well as sort of similar changes on domestic. And that's a story you're seeing repeated around the world, in fact. So, while we're focusing on New Zealand, this is happening in almost every major country around the world. So that naturally affects travel in and out of our country, and even, I think, people's desire to travel and be able to plan for the future. So while we're very focused on the immediate moment we're in right now, I think also if we look ahead, people make their plans around booking quite a long way out. So I do think we've got to be prepared that, this will impact, our business and New Zealand's tourism industry for some while yet as, we get out of the other side of this and through into recovery mode.
So what are you thinking? In your head, are you thinking end of year, end of next year, end of the year after that?
Look, I think it's just way too early to tell. I mean, at the moment, we're receiving new information almost hourly. And so I think we've got to be flexible to understand that, react to that, see how that flows through to the various businesses around here. And look, I can say that, the industry is pulling together incredibly well. Had very many conversations with the different CEOs of the border agencies, the aviation community, tourism, just sharing what we know and trying to figure out how each of us is reacting, because really, at these kind of moments, we're all in this together.
Given that your business model is based on planes taking off and landing, that's how you get paid. What happens when that stops in terms of your revenue?
Well, you're absolutely right. So unlike airlines and others in the tourism industry who take pre-bookings and have that cash flow to hand, we're really a pay-as-you-go model. And so that does naturally straight away flow through to our business. So that's something we really haven't had to face into before. So we are quickly moving to try and understand what that means for us, for our partners and others that we work with on a daily basis. And again, as I said right at the top, that affects many different businesses, many who aren't directly connected to us, but are indirectly connected through their other relationships with those in the tourism and travel industry.
And I know it's early days in terms of having solid numbers, but can you give me a bit of an idea? How many airlines would you normally have coming and going? Can you give me an idea of how many plane movements would be normal, and how does that compare to what you're staring down the barrel of now?
Yeah, well, typically in any given day, we'd probably have about 500 flight movements a day. And that's split, in terms of passenger volumes, about half and half international and domestic. So there's no question it's dropping quite significantly. I think last week we said for the early part of March we'd seen international fall away about almost 20%, and we saw that continue. We are seeing that continue through. But frankly, at the moment, the announcements and the reschedules are coming almost hourly. So even right now, I can't say for certain what we're seeing today or what that looks like for tomorrow, because I think we need to digest that information as it comes through.
You're an essential service, but I mean, the reality is, how viable are you right now?
Well, look, we're a resilient business. We've got a strong foundation to our position here, and I think look longer term. If you stand back and say, the place of aviation in the heart of New Zealanders, whether it's for travel overseas or getting around the country, I think remains. Nothing changes there. We're just facing a sort of an unprecedented sort of period of change and disruption. But look, we'll get through this, and I think we will get through as New Zealanders working together across the different organisations. But it's certainly pretty unusual times for us all right now.
The government today has essentially, put the call out to Kiwis and said, come home now. So what are you gearing up for in terms of that?
Look, we'll have to wait and see. Certainly there has been a sense of people coming home and wanting to, return from their trips early. We may see actually, passengers sort of spike a little bit the next few days as people look to come home. I think that will depend on whether they're able to get home, whether they want to return home and cut short their trips. But either way, obviously those people returning home will have to self-isolate too. So we're making sure we work with health to make sure that information is provided to arriving passengers. And that process is working well.
And that's Auckland Airport CEO Adrian Littlewood.